All right, we'll try this again. All right, good morning. My name is Nat Buse. I'm from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. And I want to welcome you guys all to our Vehicle Research and Test Center out here in Ohio. And the purpose of this meeting today is to understand better from the commenters and anyone else who wants to demonstrate anything to do with the test procedure. As you all know, NHTSA put out a notice of proposed rulemaking in December. And in that notice of proposed rulemaking, there was a test procedure that had to do with what's up here in front of you, which is a grid and several cylinders. There was also some requirements that had to do with the visual display inside the vehicle. And we had a few folks that had contacted us prior to the meeting that wished to demonstrate certain aspects of the test procedure for us. We will not be demonstrating the test procedure per se, nor will we answering any sort of direct questions. Our role here today really is to gain a better understanding from the commenters on what their particular issues are with the test procedure and whether or not there needs to be some improvement in the clarity of those things. There's sort of some formalities that we have to go through, so because we are in rulemaking and the public has a right to know what's going on here. This meeting is being video recorded and also being court recorded by a court reporter. And the purpose of that is so that those who could not make it can actually have an opportunity to see and understand what's happening here today. But by no means should anyone feel like they can't speak whatever issue they want to show to us. To my left here is Marcus Price. He is one of the lead engineers on this rulemaking. And to my right is Elizabeth Mazie, who's from our research center here in Ohio. She was very instrumental in the research part of this rulemaking. And then we also have some folks from headquarters in DC that are participating in this as well. One of the other things we have to handle in terms of housekeeping is for those that are going to present or ask questions, you need to first state your name and spell it for the court reporter, and then your affiliation, and then everything else should go from there. Obviously, try to speak clearly. That helps. Anything that cover?
We're not at the mic. You need to speak very loud.
Can the person that's going to be escorting folks to the bathroom, can you stand up for a second?
One of us.
Okay, yes.
If
you need to go to the restroom during the meeting, these guys, go see one of them, they will definitely help you out to get them in one piece. Okay. And there will be a break. All right, so without any other issues, the first person up is going to be Volkswagen. And I think Barbara Birkinshaw is going to come up, or we're going to go to a vehicle. Is that what we're doing? Yes. We're going to go to a vehicle, and she's going to demonstrate certain aspects that she thinks are concerned with the test procedure. So, Barbara, you need to go to the mic and spell your name and affiliation.
Barbara Birkinshaw, Volkswagen Group of America, spelled B-I-R-K-E-N-S-H-A-W. And the purpose that we brought to 88 here is to show or ask NHTSA to consider for rulemaking the pop-up display. Because as you're putting the vehicle in reverse, there is a possibility, or we have a way of storing the pop-up. And we don't think that anybody's going to do that. This also considers a mirror, right? You can move the mirror over, but it's more for convenience for when the customer or the person the buyer drives the Audi A8 and then further down the line they just want to store the pop-up because of the specs and for an app system or radio. So, and there's also a way when you put the vehicle in reverse, there is a way of setting the display that will then show the vehicle in sensor mode, and it basically extinguishes the rear view camera. But again, that's a very tight parking. You will still be able to detect objects or persons 1.6 meters back. But then we have to manually set it back to the rear of the camera if you want to go out of that mode. So those are actually the two items that I wanted to show.
Before we go to the vehicle, is the concern that the test procedure did not explain how to handle the pop-up?
The pop-up, so what is extinguishable?
Okay. Yeah. All right, so for the purposes of the core report, I'm going to do my best to give a sort of oral summary of what was demonstrated there. So essentially the issue is that the test procedures, according to the county, are not very clear with regards to how to handle rear view displays that go up and in and out of the console, that pop up out of the console. The particular issue with this was there's also a customer setting where they can extinguish the display by pressing a button. And when you press the button and extinguish the display, and it pops back up, it actually does not go back into rear view mode. It goes to a nav screen or something to that effect. A navigation screen. Liz or Marcus, you want to add anything else? Barbara, did I capture it correctly? Yeah. Okay, great. So that concludes that one. The next presenter that has to present is Mr. Juan Martinez from Sense Technologies. Yeah, can we get the screen back, the white screen? I think we had you as a PowerPoint.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Juan Martinez, Juan-Martinez, with Sense Technologies. SENSE Technologies. The purpose for us coming out here today was because we wanted to, we've been looking at the reports. We've been looking at the reports and the testing that's been done. And Sense Technologies has a product that is designed by design to eliminate blind spots by giving you a further distance view of what's coming up on the vehicle. According to the reports that I've been reading, 80% according to GM, 80% of incursions occur from the side of the vehicle. There was also another report put out by NHTSA that 50 to 60% of those incursions were occurring from the sides of the vehicles. And that is what ScopeOut is designed to do. From the information that I've received, ScopeOut has not been properly placed or set in for proper testing to actually show what it does. So I put together a small PowerPoint to give you an idea of what is this ScopeOut is showing, what it could be helpful with, and in the event that we need to eliminate these blind spots. Is it ready?
I guess before you do that, I guess the question I have is, from the test procedure standpoint, is there an issue that you're saying that you don't know how to test the ScopeOut mirrors the test procedure?
The test procedure, the way it's being set up, it's directed for behind the vehicle. Okay, and according to the reports that we've been seeing, like I said, the incursions are coming in from the sides. And the information that I was given showing that when the test was done, it wasn't showing how far out or how effective ScopeOut was being in taking care of that area.
Right, but that, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that seems more to an issue to discuss the countermeasures that were evaluated as opposed to the purpose of this meeting, which is the test procedure. to sort of revisit all the policy issues and the proposal is not really the purpose of this meeting. But, the purpose of this meeting is really to focus on the understanding or sometimes misunderstandings of certain aspects of the test procedure itself having to do with this grid that you see on the floor and these cylinders that are here. So that's why I wanted to make absolutely clear, sort of what you're going to present to us. If it's more about the safety problem, that might be better handled in a different meeting than this one.
We feel that ScopeOut is a product that can, along with the procedures we're doing here, we can complement this kind of testing, we can complement the result we're looking after when we're trying to back out safely. We don't only need to see what's behind us, but what's coming in towards this area here, and that's what ScopeOut does.
All right. Well, I'll let you proceed, but I guess I'll reserve the right to sort of cut it off if I see that it's not in line with what the purpose of the meeting is.
Okay. Fair enough. What I've got here is basically, a typical scenario: 2 vehicles parked in the driveway, and the vehicle in the blue is equipped with ScopeOut, and it's designed, as you can see, you've got the sidewalk off to the side, and you can see the ScopeOut through the rearview mirror. When, tell me, go ahead and switch this over. When you get ready to back out, you normally need to bring your vehicle out far enough to be able to see that sidewalk before you can see, you can see what's behind you, but you can see what's coming up towards you. With ScopeOut, you can see in your mirror, there's a small child that's about 40 feet away at this point, and you can clearly see him without moving the vehicle an inch at that point. Before he starts, the slide continues down to 25 feet, if you could move forward, 25 feet, then it goes over to 15 feet, if I recall, 20 feet, and then next one over. Through the whole cycle, the child is in this testing is 2 feet tall, and it's not lost. You can see him in the ScopeOut. You're clearly watching him moving towards the vehicle. You can go to the next slide. And we bring him in right behind the vehicle, next to the vehicle. These vehicles have not moved at all. The child's still in vision. You can still see him where he's at. Next slide. He is, at this point, he's about to go outside of the ScopeOut. He's right behind the corner of that silver vehicle, but now he's inside of the vehicle's standard mirrors. And the idea is that when a subject or a vehicle is coming across, you can see them all the way across until you pick them up into your standard vehicle mirrors, down through your center rear mirror, down to the other side, and watch the subject move away.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Do you guys have, it seems to me most of the pictures that you displayed there are sort of right up on the ScopeOut mirror. Do you have pictures of what that would look like from a driver's perspective sitting in the driver's seat?
Not really, but we have taken it. The only reason that was done that way, it was with a small point and shoot camera. Mm-hmm. It wasn't done with a higher end. When you see it through the rear mirror, I can put it in a vehicle, it'll take me 5 minutes to put it on, and the person can actually see what it looks like, hands on.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful, if not for this meeting, I think definitely for the docket. You could do that.
Fair enough. Any questions? Anybody? We're good? Any questions?
No, it's good. It just seems to be cutting out. I think because I keep touching this, I'll stop.
Okay, no problem. Well, that's all I had. Basically, this is, like I said, it's a product that it's for the masses. Cost-wise, it's something that can easily adaptable to any vehicle out there. It complements sensors, it complements cameras, and we think it's a good fit for what you're trying to accomplish.
Have you run the test procedure on a vehicle with ScopeOut mirrors installed to see if there are certain issues with seeing these cylinders?
With the cylinders per se, the way it's set up here, you can see as far as this cylinder here, okay? But like I said, it's designed to go further out. The idea is to be able to catch something before it goes into that area, and then let your traditional sensor or camera pick it up from that point on. So, in other words, giving you that extra reaction time that you need as you're backing out. If this was a child running in towards it and you're already in reverse, chances are 2 feet might not be enough time for some people. But if they've got 20, 30, 40 feet and they see a child coming in a bike or a car coming down a parking lot, scenario that we can all, feel comfortable thinking about is you're backing out of a Walmart and you've got a car next to you, you can't see anything, car's barreling down the aisle. You don't see it until most of your vehicles are out of the parking spot. By that time, it could be too late. So that's what ScopeOut takes care of. Giving you that extra time to react.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
headquarters. Thank you. Yeah. We had a great schedule, but since we're ahead of schedule, I think we'll just see if we can't motor through instead of stopping right now. So, let's see. So, the next presenter will be Mr. Scott Schmidt from the Alliance. And Scott, do you have a PowerPoint or? Okay. That's right. Yeah. So maybe I don't have to stand so close to it. Is that better? Okay.
Hello, my name is Scott Schmidt, and Alliance of Automobile Manufacturers, SCOCT, SCHMIDT.
Scott?
Yeah, Alliance AINCE of Automobile Manufacturers. Just want to appreciate indicate the Alliance's appreciation for this event. I mean, when we first got the NPRM, there were a tremendous amount of questions we had as we were trying to prepare our initial set of comments. One of the things, again, we were very appreciative also is that we did docket a typically test procedure document a little bit that basically answered quite a few questions. We do still have some. I'm going to be probably asking some of our members to amplify the, as I go through this, since they are I'm one of the more policy people, they're the more technical folks. I just put the questions up there just basically. The first one is on 150 millimeter, and this is wired, isn't it? The 150 millimeter strike, and that is pretty, it's hard to define 150 millimeter. Sorry. The strike defines 150 millimeters pretty accurately. The question is really how are you determining the vertical dimension? And you also have up there a provision that says average across the width of the strike. I'm not quite sure what average across the width of the strike means in terms of your determining the 150 millimeter height. So the kind of question is what was meant to be provided those words?
Is the concern not knowing how to test? Is that?
Yeah. Okay. It's not that we're concerned that this is a compliance issue with our technology. It's just that as you go through the evaluators, you'd like to be able to reproduce exactly how your contractor is going to do it. So you look at the words. Our test engineers take those words and dissect them, so that's why questions are kind of fairly detailed, not too much policy. And the idea is we'd like to be able to make sure our testing matches your testing as accurately as possible. And so I'm not sure we'd be interested to know, is how exactly you intend to measure the height. I guess, if you have an image, you move your finger to where you just see the image, and then you move your finger this way so you just see the image, and that's the zone, and then what you set average over average over, and I think the question is that, do you have anything?
So the right test, what's your name?
Name and
Sorry,
What's the microphone? LACU.
So the red text specifies 150 millimeter watt portion. There's no type specification, but the test report which describes that you measure a square, 150 millimeter square. So is that how the test procedure will be conducted? You will measure a square or a different shape, 150 by 150. It affects how you conduct the simulation.
certainly you can say that the test report you're talking about obviously was a fundamental input into the test procedure. I guess it goes back to the question that I posed before, is it that you feel that without that piece of information that you're having difficulty figuring out how to certify the vehicles, or how you will certify the vehicles? I just want to be clear. Okay.
And what Scott mentioned, the average height across the roof, that I'm not sure what that means either.
So the word average, in that context, I mean, we're all engineers, so we know the word average means. In that context. Okay.
Right, and for the last question, I've got a diagram that kind of illustrates that
In the regulatory test, we don't specify how the
I'm
strike.
sorry, I cannot see. There's a way that you can go back to that other microphone.
Let me try the one on the podium.
Terry Mullins, home operator. Terry Mullins, home operator.
How's that? Okay. So in the regulatory text, there's no specification of that the strikes for F and G will be placed at the center lines on the transverse vertical plane. And our concern is, will you rotate the cylinders so that the full strike can be seen by the camera if part of the strike is not seen in the display?
And again, that's something that you feel should be part of the regulatory text.
Yes. That way we can conduct our simulations.
Okay.
okay, the next one is dealing with measuring of response time. In the proposal, you have a 2-second response time, which comes from when the vehicle is shifted in, transmission shifted in the reverse gear. One big question we have is when does that time actually start? Because there's a system initialization when you start the car. So would it be tested from the car not running totally off, and then you go at 2 seconds to start the car immediately and then back up immediately? Or would the car be running? And is there any indication as to how you guys would be handling that start out and vehicle system initialization in terms of determining the total response time? And the second part of that question also is, for a manual transmission, obviously, at least for some vehicles, you can start it in gear, clutch in. So literally, you can be in gear, you start it, and clutch, and you're moving backwards. And I don't know whether there's any particular clarification that you guys can have to try to.
Not here, but we'll take that back as something to consider.
Right.
I mean, again, we're trying to understand the impact that certain aspects of the test procedure had on folks being able to comment appropriately. So I think raising it and asking us to consider that.
Yeah. And the next one sort of measuring how you're going to be measuring methods of deactivation. As you can see from Barbara's demonstration, we try to develop our vehicles so that there's customer friendly. They have some additional functionality on a lot of vehicles, so technically you can either be selected or push down the console or go to an alternate view. And I guess the question is what exactly when you say deactivate are you really meaning? Is it that you don't want to have a push button that deactivates it, or do you have other ideas of what you really mean by deactivate? I mean, we really do need to have kind of a dialogue as to what you really mean by deactivation or extinguishing display.
I guess when the member companies looked at that and they assessed their products, can you provide a little bit more input as to sort of the range that we're dealing with, versus the Audi case there, which there was a push button deactivation? Are there other types that we need to be aware of? Because in terms of the test procedure, you either write a lot of exemptions or you try some other way to deal with the issue.
Well, I don't have a good answer to that, but I do think that's something we probably should make sure we bring back in a supplemental time. So we'll make sure you have a pretty good idea. Our members have a lot of products that are in the back of their head, which are proprietary because they're not out yet. So they know that this future product might have an issue, but they don't want to talk about it until they rest it. So it may come Silver Alliance if it's stuff that's current models, or we might kind of encourage our members to make confidential submissions just to let you know that this is on the drawing board and consider it, but it's still not something that publicly know.
Right. Okay.
But we'll take that as an action item. Next one, I'll just read it. We have a whole lot of questions, I guess, on testing luminance. I mean, the whole luminance issue is giving us a lot of questions, maybe even concerns. As you know, in our comments, we questioned the 500 candela luminance, but besides the actual value, the big question is a lot of the test procedures. In other words, what kind of image is in it? Is it a white image or is it an actual display? Because a white image might actually give you a higher luminance than if it was the actual, and what's the background? Is it a white background, some other background? Then you have to kind of specify where the test measurement equipment is, its orientation of the device, so that if you're not perpendicular with normal, directed to it will have an effect. There's a whole litany of things that we have questions that we submitted about, device angle, distance from the display, and that sort of stuff.
We haven't put those questions in the docket, so we will. We wanted to make sure you guys had an opportunity to, review or finalize or whatever based on.
Yeah, we'll make sure you have a copy for the docket.
Yeah, so we're going to put this one in the docket. Can you? I can't see that behind. Can you scroll up the? Yeah, no, I just didn't see it, that's all, but yeah, if you come back to the mic, you can walk with it if you want.
Like I said, it's what kind of image is in there, is the white image, your image, what is the display, the display, some of them adjust. So you have to have an understanding of where it is, and then the question is, well, what kind of device are you using to measure it, what angle is it towards the screen, calibration methods, vehicle voltages, and again, we also have, what any measured point within the display. Do you have any guidance on how to? It seems quite pretty wide open if you're trying to measure, here. Again, you can get a lot of variability. So something that I think is a fairly, I think the whole idea is you want the display to be a reasonable luminescence. Probably adjustable for the conditions, not a single one. I think our initial set of comments, we think that even, FMDS 101 has some jurisdiction on this. So maybe that's the place that might be best to actually handle this performance requirement. This performance requirement that's mentioned.
Well, Scott, before you leave the luminance, hey, David Hines. No problem. Do you have any clarifying questions on the luminance aspect for Mr. Schmidt? He said he heard the comments and he didn't have any questions. Okay, thanks.
The next question is regarding the, and I think this was, maybe you kind of made this before. Sometimes the screen is behind the lens, so you can't really get to the actual screen itself to measure the image on the screen. So the question is, how are you measuring? And sometimes that glass bezel and trim and stuff are not removable. So how are you actually getting your measurement device to the point where you're actually saying to measure? Oh, yeah. It's always good when somebody brings props.
So I'm Troy Thompson, Troy, THON, Honda R&D. Yeah, the concern is on a display like this where we have some bezel in front of it, is how we position the ruler to measure viewing points.
Okay.
Many of our displays also have a PC sheet in front that's flat, but at some point when the ruler gets so far away, it'll create some error in the ruler.
So it's hard to tell from here, but that one looks like that the screen is sort of inset in the back?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. That answered a lot of questions.
Hey Riley, you have to say who you are. Okay. Marcus is doing his best van of light to show.
And behind door number 2 is
So Riley, I don't know if you could see, but I mean the screen is essentially inset behind this big plastic cover. Okay.
And of course, our second question really is pretty much just along the same lines, and that is, if you have these clear cover lenses that obstruct your ability to get right to the screen, that affects your, not only can you have difficulty measuring the actual image, but the distances when you're trying to do like MF, M small f, and in the center of the display, because sometimes it's hard to find it when you can't get right to it. So that's it for that one. The next one gets back to a little bit to the vehicle test setup and the lighting again, and that is, how are you measuring 10,000 lux?
You're talking for the bait like in here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe. And the next one, of course, is that you have the vehicle loaded to signal on the vehicle's loaded to simulate the way the driver and 4 passenger or designated occupant capacity. Our question there is basically, if the vehicle has more than 5 designated seating positions, driver and 4 passengers, how will the occupant weights be placed? Driver, front seat, and 3 passengers in the second row seat. So we need to get some clarification on that.
Have the member companies had a chance to evaluate that to see what effect, if any, it has, or no?
I have not heard of any, sensitivity analysis to that.
Okay.
I think it's more of an issue in, how do you weigh it? I think we even noticed that this is a little different than 111. And so I think the other things is there may be some consistency between the other parts of 111 and this in terms of loading the vehicle.
Okay.
This is another one, durability testing. You guys put some durability requirements in the NPRM, and quite frankly, we have a lot of questions on actually how you would do the testing in the vehicle. A lot of, with other standards like lighting, et cetera, usually we take the component out and you put it in and do durability tests as a component test. By and large, that's how we think it probably should be done anyway. But we would like to at least confirm exactly how you were intending to do the corrosion and humidity and temperature durability testing. And then the question is also, that some of the stuff is exterior, some of the stuff's interior, so interior stuff may not need to have salt spray and stuff like that. The type of testing might be, the requirements might be a little different for where the components are typically mounted on the vehicle in terms of the requirements.
I guess is there something in the numbering or something that led folks to believe that we wanted you to spray the inside of the vehicle with salt or something?
Well, no, I'm just getting at that fact that we have right now. It's pretty silent. It seems to be worded as if it's a vehicle-based. All those the corrosion tests, the humidity tests, the temperature tests.
Okay, so just some greater clarification, not so much anything else.
Right.
Okay.
If this were a vehicle test, are there particular values that would be a problem meeting for a large chamber?
I'm sure there would be. I don't have that information, but I'm sure there would be. Okay. We could probably provide some better guidance or recommendations if we knew, if we knew we were going down a component test, then we could give you recommendations based on that type of test. If we knew it had to be a vehicle test, I'm sure our recommendations might be quite different. Again, it seems like trying to do durability in an full vehicle environment just seems very difficult and kind of expensive for your contractors to try to do. Like the lighting and all that, the other durability requirements you have are often component testing done off, even like brake hoses and stuff like that. Sitting there cycling the wheel up and down in the car, trying to lift brake hoses. Brake hoses have its own unique durability requirements. Okay. The next one actually probably should have been combined because it really is the same thing. It's just really how do you position the ruler or the measurement device on your screen's surface to be able to measure image, and I think we've covered that. The next one's not so much a questions of specifics, but we're trying to look at this and we're wondering, this has been asking you guys what your experience has been in terms of test repeatability and variability. Have you done any of those studies? Have you taken the vehicle, taken it out, measured it, bring it back in, realign it, measure it, or take one vehicle, go out, like rent a couple cars that are sisters, identical, same make and model, but different vehicles, so you get some production variance, and then come back in and see what your test variability is.
Are you asking about the grid test or the corrosion test?
I'm sorry, we're talking about grid test. We're off of the corrosion. That was just the one. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
She says she can answer it if she wants, but I'm not sure what that means. I guess the question that I have is more of a clarification question is, I guess if folks haven't run the test procedure, it just sort of seems like
Well, we've run our versions as we interpret
Okay.
what you have.
Okay, so
And
then,
it seems that some, and my members, the experts, would probably have to amplify on the specifics.
okay, I think that would help.
But my understanding is there are aspects of this test procedure that seem to be very sensitive.
Okay,
And because of that sensitivity, then you might get some variability in there. And we're just wondering whether that's the kind of thing that you've looked at, whether, we understand how you laid it out and how you're done the performance test, but have you actually looked at how sensitive some of these measurements are? And as you've been doing these tests, whether you're getting very similar numbers and then whether you've even looked at the repeatability and variability. I realize maybe your first research is to try to get the basic test laid down so you can get the proposal out, and then maybe a follow-on would be to go back and do a short, quick run to see whether the test procedure is robust or whatever. And I'm sure our members will be helpful, will be trying to help you as they determine things that seem to be very sensitive, and maybe offer recommendations on how we can make a little tighter tolerances so that we can reduce them at variability.
I mean, I can say we have, but I think the question would be for you guys to submit to the doctor in your comments, sort of those, I guess what we call them critical
Sensitive
pieces.
measurements.
Yeah, because maybe we don't see them as critical as you guys do, perhaps.
Yeah. Okay. The next one's rear view mirror replacement. My understanding is, do you have a position procedure for actually positioning the rear view mirror? I think one of our members has been kind of going on the assumption that you could position it in a location comparable to the current 111 regulations, but I think the proposal is a bit silent on specifics.
We can try for that.
Now, the next one's performance during linger time. As you know, you pull the vehicle in, back in, the display's on, your linger time is the amount of time it takes for the display to revert or extinguish as you pull out. As that's happening, do you have to maintain the performance requirements for your image in the back during that linger time as you're moving forward? Or is the linger time just meant to be, you're allowed to have an image that remains, but the image doesn't have to meet the actual performance requirements once you're not moving backwards, you're moving forward.
I guess I have a clarifying question as why is that important? Where does that become important to your members?
I'm probably going to have to ask Mary. I guess this was a question that her folks put, so.
Good morning, my name is Mary Roten, W-R-O-T-E-N. And really it applies in areas when you're in drive and certain graphics may pop up, such as a call coming in or the Sync 911 feature, or images like that is what we're concerned about. So that's why we asked the question.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Bill. Don't mind me, Scott, go ahead.
That's all right. This one's regarding, I guess, camera location and some of the difficulties in trying to find the focal point and the camera's image plane, and we're trying to get a better appreciation for exactly how you plan to determine those features. There's the illustration that was in your test document that was helpful, but it still was a little unclear exactly how you're going to determine what that focal point of the camera is. I think our members are trying to also figure out how you can replicate this using CAD, so that's something that they would be doing, because the camera's chip location may not be exactly the MF location. So I think we need to have some better, and maybe we can provide some recommendations for how to do it. Maybe some tighter language on trying to actually find the focal points, the MF location, and those critical features.
Okay.
The last one we had was interesting is that I don't know, one of our members noted that, actually by coincidence, that they found a difference in the visual angles in measuring from one camera to the other with actually different pixel values. So it seems like, remember, the quality of the image or the pixel quality can change some of the results. So I guess the question is whether you guys have noted that as well.
I think the question is more about the sensitivity around that. I mean, it's the more you specify. I guess we could, if we were writing this thing 10 years ago, I guess we would have specified a 35 millimeter camera, which is not what you have out there now. I guess when you're looking at trying to set it up for, for a while, so you're not constantly making changes to it, is the feeling that this has to be in the reg text, or is this more about how you run the test per se?
Well, I think the first question was sort of, is this something you've noticed, and is this something that you guys think that we need to be cognizant of or control? I'm not sure we've had a chance, because this has popped up like the last day. Okay. So we haven't had a chance as the Alliance to really talk through whether we have a specific recommendation. Okay. And so, we were process-wise in the last 2 days cramming to get everybody's questions in, and that's why these seem to be kind of a little bit just like random questions, because that's literally what I did, was I took everybody's last-minute questions, put them all together to try to propose to you. So what we will do is take these back and try to formulate what we think they should be. Okay. And provide them in our comments.
Yeah, I think that would help, because obviously, I mean, if you know anything about cameras, you do know this can happen, but if it's not very sensitive to the end result, specifying it seems a bit overkill.
Right. I mean, the intent of actually all these questions is twofold. To the extent that we could get some information about what your thinking was when you proposed, that'd be very helpful. Plus, I think it was, we wanted to be, because you're trying to get this out, obviously, under time pressure, trying to get you sensitized earlier about some of these issues so you can start your thinking while we're doing our recommendations. And that way, when they do come in at the end of the comment period, it's not like you're starting from zero. You've actually got a chance to think through it. Okay. And I believe
I have one quick question on that. And I understand that you just found this, but can you clarify whether the image sensor size was identical on the two cameras with different pixel sizes?
Mary, was that your group, or was that?
We'll have to find that out.
Allocation was
And that concludes it. And I appreciate your bearing with me with these list of questions.
Not a problem. Thank you. I guess before I let you go, I want to make sure headquarters doesn't have any questions.
You guys got right here. You guys repeat your next to last question. We had a dropout. Right.
Okay, and go back to it. Of course, now my questions are out of order.
Yeah, had to do with the focal point and CAD drawings.
Yeah. I mean, basically, we looked through the process. You're talking about, the center of the camera's image plane, the plane containing the focal point. And those are kind of things that we wanted to get some better appreciation for exactly what you really meant by it. I mean, the image plane, you know, how you actually, is it a, you know, maybe if it's a square, it's an easy thing to do, but if it's not a perfectly flat the screen, or it's not, you know, it might be difficult. And some of the measurements, like I said, are difficult to do. And I think we need some more clarification on exactly how you intend to be measuring those things. That probably wasn't a whole lot better answer than I did the first time either.
Well, we had to drop that. We started to talk about focal point.
Okay. I mean, the bottom line was, I think, Nat mentioned, you know, and we mentioned that we'd be probably trying to get you some more information on this, and maybe even a recommendation on how to do it. So.
That's it.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Scott.
All right.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and 10 minutes. All right, quick 10-minute break.
And I gave you a report of my names, NHTSA.
All right, good.
And we have several questions here. Some of them may overlap with what Scott gave from the line. With the timing of the meeting, we couldn't coordinate ahead of time on that. And I'm going to go ahead and ask them anyway. I couldn't hear everything. And we might have another nuance or something that comes up that would be helpful. I guess we lost the other mic, please. Yeah, okay. So the first question we had with regard to the test cylinder service and whether the 150 millimeter width is measured along the circumference or whether it's a projected out in a plane tangent along the cylinder.
I have one clarifying question. Have your members calculated the difference between?
If they have, I don't have that number. No. And then the second part relates to the same thing, is about picking up the length of the cylinder. We believe the entire cylinder from top to bottom can't be viewed with a 130-degree camera on some vehicles. But you would be able to pick up some amount of it from the bottom up, which is the area where you're going to be most concerned with. And so we wanted to clarify whether the test procedure required that you pick up the whole length or just some portion of it.
And I guess if you're saying it's some portion
From the ground up.
from the ground, measured from the ground up.
It's apparently a difference if you're working with an SUV where you have a camera mounted at a different height versus a lower vehicle. And then question about the orientation of the stripes and whether you can turn them towards the vehicle or how they have to be aligned. Okay. Next set of questions are some durability testing questions. The first part is what is the required sequence of the testing? I guess there's 3 different tests listed there. I don't know if the order is implied by the order in which they're presented, or if the sequence can be done in a different order. And then must the visibility test be conducted after each individual corrosion, humidity, or exposure test? And must the durability and visibility tests all be conducted at the same laboratory? And after you go through the salt, the corrosion test and humidity test are completed, can the salt or moisture be removed prior to the visibility testing? Did you turn it back on for the headquarters people? I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
tell. Okay, good. And then are there time interval limits between the individual corrosion, humidity, and temperature tests for completion of the full series of tests? Or time interval between the completion of durability test and the beginning of the rear visibility performance test?
Do you know the member companies have conducted some sort of sensitivity analysis or something along those lines to state that that's something that needs to be clarified in the regulatory text?
I don't have any information on
It's
what
just a general question.
It's a general question at this point. I don't have any information on sensitivity analysis on that. Next question we had was on deactivation, and we just wanted to clarify that because there's two paragraphs on deactivation of the image. The image is intended for when the vehicle's in reverse, as opposed to in other transmission positions. So we just wanted to clarify that those restrictions are only when it's in reverse, not when it's in other transmission positions. And then measurement of display luminance. I think these may all be the same. Like I said, I didn't hear everything, but I think that question is, at what point on the display is the measurement made? How do you measure the brightness of the in-vehicle display?
It's a general.
Or how do you measure of the in-vehicle, in-vehicle display, is what we're saying. Okay, and there's some questions on the ambient lighting conditions. If there's a removable roof panel or convertible top, what's the position that should be for the testing? And I think the rule states the measurements taken at the center of the roof, and if you have a convertible or no fixed roof, where do you set that point? And then, is there a tolerance range associated with the proposed ambient brightness requirement? You just got a number there. Wondered if there was some tolerance, since there might be some variability.
Yes, I guess that was going to be my question. Is there, when member companies were looking at the test procedure that came out with the NPRM, and they went and measured it, did they find that there was some need to have a band or?
I don't know the specific. I think there may be some question about how accurately you can get that number from lab to lab. I don't know if they know there's a sensitivity, but they don't want to find if they test it above or below, because it was close, but it wasn't exactly on. I think it's 10,000 lux or whatever. Just wanted to have some certainty that they wouldn't run into a problem
if they went over or they were under.
Yeah, both. And then we thought that vehicle condition should be specified in terms of normal driving conditions. If you've got hatchback closed or trunk closed or tailgate closed, that would be helpful to clarify that because you don't do that, then you've got some odd situations where you wouldn't be able to place the camera where you normally would think would be a good place to put the camera.
I don't think there wasn't anything in the preamble or the reg text though that said we were going to run it with hatchbacks open.
Correct.
Okay.
But just to make sure that it's fully closed in normal operating condition. Okay. Okay, and then the probably intended to display, well, I guess I won't give editorial on it. The mirror orientation for in-mirror display doesn't specify. We wonder should the mirror be oriented toward the driver's eye point. Okay. And then we had a question on the test reference point determination, the rotated eye midpoint aspect of it. So I got to find another piece of paper here. In S14.1.5, the language midway down, and it's actually in the comments that we filed, and it's got a color copy. We highlighted this section in red. You make some lines with this MF eye midpoint and the point J, the head neck joint center, based on the H point, and then there's a line where there's a procedure where it says rotate the imaginary line about J2 in the direction of the rear view image until the straight line distance between MF and center of the visual display reaches the shortest possible value. And I guess we were a little confused. There's a center location. It seems like there's a center location, and we're not sure what the shortest possible value would be different from the, if there's some intent or something that we're not understanding about how you're supposed to move that line. It seemed like you would come up to the center point and that would be it. Or is there some flexibility in finding some other point that's a shorter distance?
That language is just saying the shortest possible distance is referring not to the center of the display, but to that straight line distance. That makes sense. Obviously, the center of the display is a fixed point.
Right. So once you rotate to that, or just saying make sure it's just a straight line. Is that?
It's a straight line, so you keep rotating until the distance between the eye point and the display was the shortest point possible.
But to the center.
To the center of the display. Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad that's one regulatory text revision we won't have to do.
Okay, then photographic data. This first question is related to the camera, the digital camera that you're putting in the vehicle for taking your measurements, and the determination of the image plane for a digital camera. We're not sure how we're supposed to determine that.
Not to keep asking the same question, but did you guys happen to do a sensitivity analysis on that number at all?
I don't have any information on that if anybody has anything. And then you may ask the same question. This next part was, is there a tolerance range for the camera location?
Right.
Back to the in-vehicle display. I think there was already the demo with the Honda curved thing about how you attach the ruler, how you fix it to the base if the display has a curved lens. And then we also have an issue of if the dashboard frame extends outward, slightly interrupting the display image. Does that may have a small blocking of the image display. I'm not sure. I'm just thinking there might be a piece of trim that comes up or something. Might have to do with the angle which the camera is picking it up.
So while in reverse, there could be a piece of something blocking the image. And so is the question how we would treat that in the test procedure, or is the question something else?
I guess if you have a display image what you saw, it's sort of buried behind that curved lens. And once you install that in the vehicle, there might be a lip or something because it's back in the dash a little bit.
Right.
And when we're talking about, I think we're talking about a very small amount. And then does that, we think that should be allowed. Does that subtract from the display is still the size that, whatever is specified.
Right. So I think that's something that probably needs to be clarified then.
Can you clarify whether, when you say the image, are you meaning the visibility or the image of the cylinders, or just some portion of the screen?
Some portion of the screen, is my understanding of it. I'm looking in case any of my member companies says it's not what I have the wrong understanding. That was Riley? If Nat says it's okay with me.
Can you give an example of a production vehicle where this is issue?
No. I'll see if I can find out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Quick question, the one that last.
Hey, wait, Scott, you probably want to...
I'll repeat it.
Okay, thanks.
I was just wondering whether it was a case of whether it was just the driver couldn't see it because he was extra short, or in other words, is it a case where you move your head, you can see the image? You know what I mean? In other words, if the dashboard comes out, so maybe at some point you can just move your head and see the image and be totally clear. But where the head is at in the test, you might not. And is that allowed? In other words, in the real world, you're looking at that image, you might cock your head just a little bit to get the full image, and that, from a safety standpoint, should be fine.
The clarification Scott's making through a question is about the trim might be such that exactly where you've got the camera there might be some blockage of some small portion of the screen there, but in the real world you're looking around, you're going to see over that or through that. We'll have to, I think we need to give you an example and clarify this because I don't have enough information to make that clear.
Maybe part of the steering wheel might show up on the picture.
Stefan from Mitsubishi was saying that perhaps part of the steering wheel would block the image you're taking from the camera. T-H-I-E-R-E.
T-H-I-R-I-E-Z.
T-H-I-R-I-E-Z.
E-Z.
Thank you, Stefan.
Okay. Then system response time. A couple of questions on that in terms of what is the method for measuring system response time in S5513 and S6213, whether using a stopwatch or an electrical signal. Also, I don't think it was clear that it's what gear position it's in reverse is when the image should pop on. And then I guess we also want a clarification about whether the ignition in the on position was the engine running or not running. I think that has an influence on the brightness of the screen. And then also the temperature of the environment in which it's tested, if there's some range there. Apparently, in extreme cold, the systems don't reach the full brightness you'd still have an image, but it wouldn't be perhaps at full brightness as quickly as it would be in a normal temperature range.
And what's extreme cold?
That I don't know. Yeah.
I think that's something that I guess if you could clarify, that would be helpful.
We'd probably give you a recommendation.
Because I can tell you extreme cold means something much different for me.
Yeah. I thought it was extremely cold this morning, but yeah. Okay, that's it. I will give you, I had a preliminary list of questions. We've added a little bit here and there, so I'll fix those up and get them to you so you have that ready and put that in the document.
Thank you very much, Mike. I really appreciate that.
And thanks again for having a workshop and giving us the opportunity to go over these things.
Yes. Great. All right. Next we have up is Mary from Ford. Do you have a PowerPoint or anything like that that we need to? Okay, so I think this is where I can say, remember this morning we all got up and ran over there to see the Audi. We have a webcam now that I think everybody will be able to stay in their seat and see it on the screen over there, except for you guys at headquarters. So I'll do my best to try to explain what we're looking at, or Marcus will.
What we're going to be demonstrating today is our trailer tow zooming function. And this is to gain clarification on the distinguishable, extinguishable definition of deactivation. So this kind of supports Scott earlier when he was talking about wanting to example for deactivation. Well, we have that.
And my name is Rob Aaron, back in the AA, R1 before. As you put it in reverse, you get the normal image. Up on the corner you see the zoom button. And you can zoom down into the trailer hitch area. I've done a request from our customers that if they do hitching, then you see a better view of the ball and the hitches that are backing in and out. And as you go into drive, it'll go to the normal view. Back in reverse, it'll be back into the zoom mode until the blinker time extinguishes or can go into park. And back in reverse, it'll be back into the normal mode, and you have to reselect it again. So the question is, obviously, as you zoom in, you're not going to meet the regulations for seeing all those cones, depending on which zoom level you're in at. But there's no extinguishing in the image, it's just you're zooming in on a certain location to help you in your hitching the trailer. Okay, starting in park, go to reverse, you get the normal view. And then there's a zoom button that only shows up in reverse. And then you can zoom in on your particular spot you're looking for a trailer hitch. Yeah, bumpers right here. And then go to the normal view as you pull out and you're trying to realign the vehicle back to the hitch. And then you go back in reverse and you're back in zoom mode until the linger time extinguishes and it starts 5 miles an hour, and then or out of reverse into park, and then we'll go back into the normal field of view that's the normal view of the other vehicle. Any further questions?
Thank you.
On that, I guess, Mark, let's have that down. A clarifying question, I guess, with regards to the test procedure and how that would work.
We're looking for clarification on the word extinguishable.
Right.
Extinguish, and what that means, because that image is still displayed, the review image is still displayed, but it's not the full
Right.
image, it's the zoom image. So we're
Right.
looking for clarification on the word extinguish.
But in that vehicle, or in any vehicle, it seems like it always, either as if you cycle the key, or you exceed the linger time, your linger speed, which I guess is 5 miles an hour, then it defaults back to a view that would see this
It
grid.
would default back to that view, and then you'd have to select it again if you wanted it.
Okay. So is the issue more about how, seems to be more tied to
Under a usable, selectable view.
how to handle those, right?
How to handle that
Right.
from meeting the regulations.
Right. And clarification, so you said for towing, but I assume if someone was parallel parking, they could use that same.
You could use it the same way.
All right, we are ahead of schedule slightly, which is good. We weren't sure how long it was going to take to run vehicles in and out, so I actually want to extend a thank you to those that actually brought vehicles. That was very, very helpful to actually see the different implementations and the issues that arise. And so since we have a little bit of time, I was going to open up the floor to anyone who maybe didn't have a chance to register that wanted to speak about the test procedure or anything else about the rule. You can have that opportunity now.
Yeah, sure.
Sure, just when you come up to state your name and spell it for the court reporter.
My name is Jeanette Fennell, and that's spelled Janette. Last name Fennell, F as in Frank, ENNELL, and I'm with kissandcars.org. I just wanted to say thank you. This means so much to the children of America and to older adults. I always say we wouldn't buy a car if we couldn't see 20 or 30 feet going forward. So why would we buy cars that we can't see 20 or 30 feet going backwards? So thank you so much for this. And then just one little clarification that you can help me with, and I know NHTSA has adopted this, is when we're referring to the area behind the vehicle, if we could call it the blind zone instead of the blind spot, because I know all of you are working on new technologies for the blind spot when we're changing lanes, and it truly is a spot. But when we can't see maybe an area 8 feet wide and 20 feet behind us, it's not a zone. It is a zone, it's not a spot. So if we could just use blind zone for that area, then we'll all be on the same page and it won't be confused with the blind spot when we're changing lanes. So that would be helpful. Thank you very much. I know there's some people that came all the way from Japan to be with us, and of course is taking this very seriously. So thank you for protecting America's children. God bless.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'm going to run out the back door so no one can run up here and track me down. All right, well, I think that concludes it. I'm going to turn it over to, I guess, Liz or Marcus.
Okay, so you can mill around until 12. We want to try to get people, we have one scheduled for ourselves right at 12, so we want to try to get people out of here right after then. But if people want to discuss amongst yourselves or come and clarify more things, look at the vehicle more, feel free, and we'll try to close up the room at about 12. We can still, if anybody needs to use the restroom or go get a Coke or something, the escorts can take you over to that side of the building and bring you back. But sign out at the gatehouse, so if you have a badge, they'll want to take that back. But we thank you for coming out here to the middle of Ohio and braving a little bit of snow. So we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. There was no